What's up, guys? On today's episode, we are so excited to talk to Stacy Gallego, actually Flipper University alumni and one of our close friends we've got to know throughout the last couple of years. So, Stacy, thanks for jumping on here and answering some questions and kind of talking about your business.
Thanks, guys. It's really good to be here.
Yeah, we're
It's amazing
to talk to you and dive into some of your business. And we've had you on a video before. It's been a couple of years now, though. So we wanted to bring you on the podcast and see some updates and like learn a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So we're excited. So
let's dive in.
All right, let's dive in. So first of all, give us a little bit of backstory of how you kind of got into flipping first. So.
awesome. Well, I started in 2007. I had two babies and I had kind of quit my nursing job for a period of time. And a friend of mine was doing eBay and I thought, she taught me how. I called her on the phone and she walked me through my first listing. And I thought, so I just sold the kids like outdated stuff and just stuff that we had laying around. So it was basically just like fun money. I never thought about it any other way other than that. You know, I'd sell something or find something and take the money and go do something fun with the kids. But it was never, never big money. But then in 2018, I started telling my husband that I wanted to buy an RV. And he said, well, the house rule, you can buy whatever you want as long as you have the money. So I started thinking about ways that I could make money. And I was going to like walk dogs and do I was looking into things. And then I happened upon you guys talking about flipping and just your business model. And I was like so intrigued and inspired. And so I told my husband, hey, I'm going to jump into flipping large items and we're going to freight ship. He's like, no, we are not doing that. So I was kind of on my own in the beginning. I thought to myself, what could I do if I started out with very little or nothing? So when I started, I just took 50 cents, went to a yard sale, bought a little, it was a cap for a tire on a Dodge truck. And I sold it the next day for $75. And I took that $75 and I just kept putting it in. And I've never put any other money into my business since then. And on 50 cents, hit the 100,000 club and multiple things after that. So that's how I started. And in a year and a half, I had $20,000 for the RV and then decided there's a lot of other things I could do with $20,000. So we were undecided if we were going to buy it. So we put it into an investment and the investment did really well. And yeah, it kind of multiplied. So that's kind of how I got started. And then I've just gotten better and better at it. And, it's a friend of mine who is in a different business. She always says, it's the best job I never knew I wanted. Like literally, I never knew that I was, I could tell people I quit my nursing job so I could be a flipper.
Right.
But that's how it turned out. So
it's not a normal thing that you would say.
No.
I quit nursing to flip stuff online.
But that's so awesome. So 50 cents, a tire hubcap is what you started with. And then you're able to take that, roll it into 75 and then just keep investing that money, which is so amazing. It's amazing that you have that potential at this business.
I think that stops a lot of people is thinking they have to buy a lot of inventory at first, but you can just start small and then just keep reinvesting your money, like take a portion of it, reinvest it in your inventory and then grow it from there, which is, and you got that to 100,000 in 2 years, right? It was 2 years. Yeah. So that was awesom.
2 years starting from 50 cents and growing it to 100,000. That is amazing. That is totally amazing.
At what point was it a money number or when did your husband start to be like, maybe she's got something here. This is cool.
Well, one of the first big things that I sold was a giant cooktop. And it was a Viking cooktop, which is a great brand anyway. I bought it for $100 and he was like, I don't know why you're buying this. Like, and then I ended up selling it 2 days later for $800. And I thought, I'm going to box this thing up. It was like 100 pounds and I boxed it by myself. And Rob, you had gotten on the phone with me a couple of times to kind of show me what to do. And by the time he got home, I had it. And then I told him, oh, I sold that cooktop. He goes, for how much? And I said, $800. He goes, $800. And that was the start of like, this might be. And then we had our first freight shipment within 30, well, I think it was a couple of weeks after I purchased the course, the freight shipping course. And then we figured it out and shipped it out. And that one I think I bought it for $125 and sold it for, I think it was $3,200. So at that point, he's like,
All right.
this seems like a good gig and maybe something we can do. So yeah, we've been kind of doing it together and it's been really fun.
He was on board. That's awesome. Yeah, numbers usually speak.
When you can show that. Yeah. Are you doing this right now full-time or part-time hours or?
Well, I say it's full-time paycheck and part-time hours.
Okay.
Like that's kind of how it works. You know, my paycheck says I work full-time in better money than I make when I was a nurse. But, you know, I probably work 15 or 20 hours a week, if that, you know, so I have a lot of really good inventory right now. And yeah, it's really great. It's fun. I got a lot of time for my family, which I really love that.
That's awesome. Are you comfortable? Can you, like, your hours that you're working right now, can you give us like an average monthly of what you're bringing in?
Oh,
if you're not comfortable, not a big deal, but we love to ask everybody.
Yeah. Most months I do between 5,000 and 7,000. I've had a couple slower months where I've done like 2,500, but I was gone. I was in Israel and, you know, I kind of wasn't working there for a little bit. So yeah.
That's awesome.
And my paycheck really depends on my consistency too, you know, how consistent I am.
Yeah.
And you've really gravitated towards the larger, the higher profit items, correct?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It just makes, and that was when I saw your video and I just thought that makes sense. Like work less and make more money. That seems like that's what I need. I don't need to like work myself crazy because I was, you know, I already did that as a nurse. So that's exactly what I do. I would say about 80% of my listings are larger items.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome.
We had go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and for you guys that don't know, Stacy is actually a moderator. She's actually a coach inside of Flipper University. She works close with us.
And helping other people.
Exactly.
Do the same thing
After
too.
she jumped into Flipper University, she kind of reached out and she's like, hey guys, I really love what you're doing. I'd love to work for you, or love to work with you guys and help people. And ever since then, yeah, we've grown close to Stacy. We feel like she's part of our family. But just give you a little bit of backstory about that. So, and now she's kind of modeled exactly our selling model is the higher profit, the bigger items, and she's been doing amazing at it. But it's really, really cool to see her growth from start to finish for sure.
Yeah, doing to a T. And I was going to add that we got a comment the other day about saying like nobody can find that high dollar stuff for, you know, so cheap, and then nobody can ship it. And I said, well, actually a lot of people are doing it, and it's really like, it's a great way if you can kind of wrap your head around that people are getting rid of this stuff because they don't know how to ship it. They don't know what to do with it. They're getting rid of appliances. They're getting rid of these things for next to nothing. A lot of the times, you know, sometimes you have to spend a little more, but you can get stuff you're really good at finding good deals.
Absolutely.
So, you know, you start to train your eye, and then you can, if you offer shipping, it can be worth that to somebody else to get it delivered to them. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah, that is super cool. One thing I wanted to talk about too with you. So you've had a lot of, you know, great success. You've gotten through a whole bunch of hurdles, and then you hit kind of a bump in the road this last year. So, and we saw it, and it's just really interesting because you've done it hundreds of times. Like you have that track record, you have the experience. And then all of a sudden you got like, what in your mind, like made you think like you couldn't do, or what
started
happened?
doubting.
Yeah,
you just had some doubt.
Yeah. How did that?
Right. That's been a big thing for me. You know, I see that, you know, even my monthly income, I'm like, I'm doing this. Why am I like, I can get better at it, but I never thought that. I always thought I would hit a certain place and then I couldn't go past that. But actually that's not true. So I started forcing myself. I would think, and I'm going to get a bumper sticker. What WWRD? What would Rob do? I started thinking, okay, if Rob was in my position, what would he do? He'd buy this baby. He'd buy it. He'd say yes, and then he'd figure it out later. And that's what I started doing. I started forcing myself. I'm going to buy this, and I'm not going to think about shipping it until I sell it, or I'm not going to think about maybe I don't have space for it. I'll figure it out. And so I started telling myself, I can do hard things, and I can figure it out when I get to that point. And that has just changed so many things for me. I mean, I bought inventory that I never would have 2 or 3 years ago. So Yeah, it's really, really fun. And yeah, it's just, so it is definitely a mindset shift. And that's even affected other areas of my life. Like, I'm not a confrontational person. I don't like confrontation, but there's sometimes things need to be said. And I would in the past not say them because I was afraid to say. And I think, no, I can do hard things in this position too. And I can say what I need to say. And then it's just like been liberating in every area of my life. And I really attribute it to flipping and being in our course members group and being inspired. And, you know, Rob, you give advice to somebody else. And then I say, I'm going to take that advice. I'm going to do that too. And then I do it. And then I move another step further in my business. And it wasn't even advice for me, but I decided I'm going to take it and I'm going to do it exactly like he told that person to do.
I think that is really, it's cool that we've been able to see, like, watch the whole journey, which is really being on this end and see you go through it. But I think it's important to know that when you're doing something, like, everybody has these roadblocks, like these things that set in, like either it's imposter syndrome, like, who am I can't do this, like, even though you've been doing it for so long and you have the track record, the proven track record, you still think those things. So a lot of times we just get in our heads.
Yeah. And Stacy was the first one of our students to hit the $100,000 mark. And just know, this isn't stuff that she dealt with. Well, it is in the beginning when she was at the lower mark.
She did in the beginning too.
But
then
still, after she got past $100,000 in sales, it was one of those things that she still was struggling with it. So you're not, whoever's listening to this right now, you're not the only person doing it. This is something that constantly you have to grow and you have to get better at, realizing that you can do it. And one thing that I always tell myself, and Melissa, she gets on me on this, but if one person can do what you're trying to do, it can be done. That's all you really need to know. If one person has done it and it can be done, then you can do it as well. And that's what, if you take that mindset on, that mind shift, instead of, oh, I can't do that, how am I going to do that? If you take the mind shift of, okay, I can do it, I just got to figure out how to do it. And I've really seen Stacy do this. I've seen her be like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it. And it really is. It's really cool. And that's one of the other things about your growth. If something's scaring you, that's one of those things that if you really live into it, that's when you know you're starting to grow. So if Stacy's buying something so big or high profit and she's like, I just don't know what I'm going to do, that's when she's really growing herself. And that's really exciting to watch that for sure.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun.
What would you say, like, when you're kind of in it, what is, if say somebody's listening that is like kind of stuck right now, they feel like they're not getting traction, maybe they're stuck in their own head, like that they don't think they can do this, what would be something advice you would give them to help them kind of push through that?
Yeah.
I shouldn't say this because you might admit me, but I talk to myself. Okay.
No,
and
that's good.
I tell myself, like, again, you can do hard things. You can figure this out. I've never gotten something and been like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do now. Like, not at all in the 4 years that I've been doing this. So I just say, I'm going to say yes and figure it out later. That's what I do. And I recommend that for everybody. Like, just do it. If you're waiting to list something on eBay, say today, I'm going to list one thing on eBay. And if you're, scared about buying, a larger item, just know you can figure it out. I mean, there are so many resources to figure everything out that, between YouTube and, our course members group and, so many different resources to figure things out that you should never say no if you're going to, move your business further. So I think that is just doing it and just not overthinking it. And that was what I did too. I would overthink it to so much, like, oh my gosh, what if and it would even be something like a free item that was worth money. I'd be like, oh, what if I end up with this? So what? I can call a scrapper to come and get it for free. He'd be happy to. The day that, like, there's no, like, I would even overthink those kind of things where I was overthinking it to a point where I was losing opportunities. So I stopped. I just stopped. I'm like, I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going to get it. And then I'm going to figure out all the details later when it sells. And there's a little buffer, between the time that you have it listed and sell it, and you got time to figure things out. There's just tons of resources, people to help you. There's no reason to. So I think that was a big thing. I just told myself, I'm not going to lose any more opportunities because I've got places to see and things to do in life, and I'm going to build my business. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
I was going to add, I think, like, I overthink things a lot too. And so, like, I'll think through a whole situation, and he'll be like, how did you even get to that point? Like that you're thinking about like what could happen if, then, when, like this. And like that doesn't even enter your mind. You're like, just get, like, you're thinking of all these worst things that could happen. Why? Like, how does your mind even go there?
Yeah.
So,
and the other side effect that Stacy, I mean, she hasn't really mentioned it yet about what she's done when she's, embraced some of these things, that she's not missing out on opportunities. It's opened the door for contacts for her to get repeat people that she's buying stuff from, and vendor. Exactly. She's finding that stuff, and she's got that list now of people that she can go to and get stuff. It's just amazing to watch her growth and watch what she's been able to do when she changed that mindset of, okay, I don't know how to do this, to I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out, whatever it takes. So I think that's awesome. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite flips that you can think of?
Ooh, I've had a lot of really fun ones. I think my all-time favorite was the motorcycle sidecar. And Rob found that one. I was in a coaching group with you and you found that. He said, go down and get this. It was about 35 miles away from us. He said, go down and get this today and bring it home with you. And I was like, okay. So we went down, and they just wanted it. They would have probably given it to us for free. We gave them $200 for it, and I sold it for $3,500, I think. And that one I sold when we were in Florida on the beach.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Gotta love those sales.
I'll ship it when I get back, and they're like totally fine with us. So yeah, that one was challenging because it was a big pallet, but we figured it out.
That's
It
it.
was a motorcycle sidecar, right?
Yep,
Like
yep,
a-
Yep, a
sidecar.
motorcycle sidecar, and it was like a convertible with a little trunk. It was really cool.
It was
It was
cool.
cool. So that was one of my favorites.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Are there any other other flips that you can think of that were kind of something you had to, like, maybe you learned something from, like a struggle or a?
I remember
Um,
one that I'll ask you a question about, because
okay.
I helped you. The boat you guys bought, I think it was an inflatable boat. Did you guys sell that?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
what was the deal with that? Was that a flop? Was that a
No.
flip? Okay.
Well, that was another thing. That was in the beginning.
Okay.
I got motivated enough to buy it, and then I got scared I was going to end up with it. So I never listed it on eBay, which was a major, I probably would have sold it for $3,500, but I sold it locally for $1,200.
Okay.
But it was a good experience for us even then, because we were just like, we tell people, we bought a boat, we flipped a boat. Even though we didn't, make a ton of money, but it was like, people are like, what? You flipped a boat? So it was still, really like inspiring for us. And we're just like, hey, we can even flip a boat, so.
That's cool. And you can take almost every single flip you do, you can take away from it. You can learn from it. And I really think that's awesome that you might not have made as much money as you possibly could have, but you learned from it and you keep going with it. That is the biggest thing about this business, is learning through every single flip that you do. Learn how you can get better, learn what you can do to be more efficient, all that kind of stuff you can definitely throw into, your repertoire of what you're able to do. So that's so exciting.
I remember when you first started, you were scared. You didn't want to list anything because you were scared it was going to sell.
Not good for business.
She's like, I'm afraid it's going to sell, and then I don't know what to do. And
then I'm going to have to figure it out.
And now, you're figuring out the hard stuff. I did want to add to, when I watch you, sometimes like he's palleting something or getting ready to ship something or something, and he's doing one thing, and then he just changes, like he's like, I think there's a better way to do it, and like he just changes like midway through, like you could just see his brain thinking, okay, I think there's a better way. And so like it's not, you can always figure it out as you go. So I think that is,
And another,
and we do the same thing.
Yeah.
We'll say, hey, maybe on this end we should have something padding it, because you want to make sure it gets there in one piece. So yeah, we do the same thing, like, and we'll be like, oh, two heads putting together too, can figure things out.
And I still remember John even asking me. John is Stacy's husband, and he doesn't pallet the same way that I pallet. And he's like, is it okay if I do? And I'm like, absolutely. If you feel comfortable with that, and that makes you, it's easier. Exactly. It's still safe. It's totally 100% you can do that. So that's the thing, is it's not always just exactly how Melissa and I do something. It's learning from it, and maybe even getting a little bit better, or figuring out a different way that you're more comfortable with doing it. But the overall goal, even with like when we're talking about palleting, is it's getting there safe. It's a safe pallet. You got it there. You got it packaged properly. You got it to where it's going to ship safe, and that's what you want to do. So yeah, it's really, really cool to see the different ways that people's mind work and come up with different ideas to do stuff, and it still works. It's still 100% okay, which is really, really cool as well.
Yeah. where do you see yourself in your flipping business in the next couple of
Oh,
years?
good question.
Like where do you want to go with it? You still see yourself doing this for a while?
Yeah, I do. I have, I took the one-on-one coaching with Rob and that's been really helpful too, to really, like, I have bought stuff I never thought I would ever buy. And it was by the encouragement of Rob, like, okay, this is the one, like the one storage unit. I went to look at it. It was like so overwhelming. I'm like, I'm not buying this. And it was cheap. There's probably like $60,000 of inventory in it. And I was like, I'm too scared to buy it. And Rob's like, okay, let me
Switch your mindset.
Let me put this together for you. If you sell one of those boards, you're going to get all your money back. I'm like, oh. So I went down, I'm like, I'm buying this baby. And then I told John, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out later. And I got the storage unit and I've been selling stuff. And so it's been,
That's exciting.
but I think you need, and I always say this to people too, like, you don't need to be smart. You just need to find somebody smart who's already doing it and then just do exactly what they do. That's pretty much in a nutshell, what I did. I just saw you doing it. I knew you were doing it. I knew you were successful at it. So I'm like, I'm going to do everything that Rob does. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. So, and it's working out good.
Absolutely. That, and you can apply that to anything. It's not just flipping. Melissa and I have coaches that we constantly are watching what they're doing. We're trying to implement it, or we're trying to do it. And it's the same thing for flipping. If you want to get better, find somebody that you can actually see what they're doing, copy what they're doing, keep doing it, and get better and better at it. But I agree. I think that's a great piece of advice for sure.
Yeah. So back to where do you see yourself in a couple years? So like, where do you
expanding,
like,
or
do you want to kind of, are you going to like scale, and like, what are you thinking?
Well, I've been scaling because I hired somebody to help me, pick up things and do my pallets and just, that, like, my little handyman guy. So I'm probably at some level going to flip forever because I enjoy it so much. But in 5 years, I think we're going to like retire. That's kind of our plan. So our kids will be, kind of deep into college, and then we're gonna travel. But here's the cool thing about flipping. I don't even need to be home to do it. Like, if I can put my store on vacation and I can ship stuff when I get home. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, but for the next 5 years or so, I'm expanding and increasing my inventory and, getting ready to save money and travel the world.
Yeah, working on systems, which is awesome. That is
Yes.
definitely something that we're working on with one-on-one, especially with Stacy. We're doing the same thing. We're all growing in this aspect
Because
of the
then you
business.
don't even have to be there, and it can sell and be shipped
Right.
to the person.
That's
and
it.
that
Yes.
would be ideal. And then you can travel the world, right?
I know, it's wonderful.
It's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. Any other advice you'd want to give to somebody?
Parting words of wisdom, for
Like,
sure.
Not necessarily starting out, like somebody kind of like, because you weren't starting out when you went through that whole like mindset struggle.
I know.
So
And then you guys would always say, why does she keep doing that? It was really true. And that really inspired me. It's like, I started asking myself questions like, why am I doing that?
Yeah.
Because I know what I'm doing and I know that I can do it. So I just and I just forced myself, stop. And sometimes I'll still start with that, like this little negative thing, like, oh, what if I get this and this and that and this? Who cares? If you get it, and it's not going to undo all of the income I've made from flipping, even if I have a bad experience. It doesn't. So I just keep going. And, some things don't turn out the way I thought they would, but overall, I've got a pretty good track record. So
Yeah. Such great advice.
Yeah. And like if you say you buy something for $50 or $100 and it's a bust, like that's one thing out of how many thousands of dollars you've made over,
Exactly. And that's really one of the mindset shifts, because before that would put me over the edge, like, oh, I still don't know what I'm doing. I can't believe I did that. But now I just go, just
lesson learned.
It was a $150 investment or $100. It's okay. It's not gonna hurt my hurt my business at all. So.
And I think that's a huge point as well, is we're not talking about going out and spending $5,000 and taking a risk on something.
Right.
We're finding high profit items for that lower price range, $100, $75, $50, stuff like that. And if you do see something for $200 or $300, the profit has to be there that, you're probably going to make $3,000 or $4,000 on it. So it's one of those things that, when you're making investments like this and you're telling yourself, which this is an amazing piece of advice. Hey, this is not going to break me. If I learn a lesson out of this, I'll learn it for the next time. But if I don't, I'm going to make some great money on it in the process.
Right.
So that's a really cool mindset for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think, I heard somebody say this once, courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you're afraid and do it anyway.
Mm.
Like you just do it and figure it out later. I mean, that's
awesome.
my new mantra. I'm going to do it. And I will figure out all the details later. And it seems to be working out pretty well for me.
I love it.
Yeah, that's something we've heard a lot before too. Like if you're not scared of something you're doing, like you're not growing. You're not
right.
learning more, you're not growing, you're really staying in the same. And to that point, you're not really even staying the same. You're actually probably going backwards, because a lot of times they say you can't really just stay in the same place. You're either going forward, learning and growing, or you're going backwards. So, do the hard stuff.
That's it.
Do the scary
do
stuff.
the hard stuff and it'll pay off. And
I wanted to add too, if you guys do ever end up jumping into Flipper University, you'll get to meet Stacy in the group. She is awesome
I'll be there
at helping people out.
Yes, Stacy's a lot like us. She does similar stuff. I don't even know how many states away from us, but she's in the group. She actually answers a lot of questions in the group as well. So it's we're very excited to have Stacy as part of our family. And we're excited that you did this with us today, Stacy. Thank you for taking the time and actually just giving people some great encouragement, some advice on if they are stuck, how to get past it. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Do it anyway. Do it scared.
Just do it anyway. Figure it out.
All right.
Thanks, Stacy.
Thanks, Stacy. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.